Welcome, collectors, to hour number 11 of Hobby Palooza 2024. We are up next with a great pair of Hall of Fame autograph collectors in Dom at Staven Sports Cards and Jake over at Legends Never Die with their program that they do fairly regularly called Cracking Cooperstown. Before we get to that, we got to mention the charity we are doing for this event this year, which is Signatures for Soldiers. And here's the information you need in order to contribute to that worthy cause. The official charity of Hobby Palooza 2024 is Signatures for Soldiers. Since 2014, it has been their mission to help serve those who served our nation when it called on them and who now need our help. They work in cooperation with other charitable organizations to assist veterans with disabilities, homeless veterans, and existing members of the armed forces and their families who need extra support. Their efforts have been documented in Forbes and Beckett magazines. They will be operating a booth at the National, which is their biggest fundraising event of the year, as it includes a charity auction with the support of Heritage Auction House. For more information, visit signaturesforsoldiers.com. To donate to Signatures for Soldiers for our Hobby Palooza event, please use PayPal Goods and Services to send your money. Last year, Mike's PayPal account was frozen by too many people using friends and family. I will happily donate the PayPal P myself to make your donation whole. Send it to jecoffma@yahoo.com. That was jecoffma@yahoo.com. For every $10 donated, you will have an entry to one of the pieces of artwork created by Scott of Reindeer Studios or Eric Fourleaf that they will be making live on their Hobby Palooza show. Additionally, collectors have 50 exclusive quad auto channel cards available to the first 50 people who donate and request one. In the notes section with your PayPal payment, at a minimum, please include your YouTube handle. If you want to get one of the autographed channel cards, also include your mailing address. Every dollar collected will be presented by check to Signatures for Soldiers at the National in Cleveland. Thank you for supporting this worthy cause.
Welcome to Cracking Cooperstown, where we talk all things Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame collecting. Join us as we discuss Hall of Fame voting, autographs, cards, baseballs, resumes, and trajectories, debate and discussion as we look to crack the code to Cooperstown. Here we are, Dom. We're on Hobby Palooza, man.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you to 4 Collectors for having us. This is a tremendous honor for us, and we agree that this is an amazing cause to give back to Signatures for Soldiers. I know I gave earlier. I'm sure Jake gives throughout the day as well. We want to help raise some money during this hour. So before we get into the show, we're going to be giving away 3 autographs, 3 Hall of Fame autographs to the first 3 donors during this hour. John will be checking through the PayPal for timestamps. And it will be first come, first serve to choose which one of these 3 autographs. $20 or more. You can get this Duke Snyder from Nabisco Legends. This Monty Irvin from Donruss Hall of Fame. Those silver stickers, love for Lou Rock. And Jake's got the third one.
Perez Steel Celebrations autograph of Bob Lemon.
So, yeah, the first 3 people to send $20 or more to jecoffma at yahoo.com. They're on PayPal, Goods and Services. You will get the first bid to one of those 3, and we will go until those 3 are gone to help raise some money for a great cause here. So, Jake, John Hancock's Hall of Fame autographs. Why is this such a big part of our hobby?
So I think the biggest thing about it is that the Hall of Fame itself is so collectible. And autographs is a unique way to do that. Some would argue that it's the closest way that you can be connected to these players that were the all-time greats of the game. And we're going to go through the different ways that you can go about getting Hall of Fame autographs. I know we have a lot of different categories to cover here, but there's more than just one way to collect Hall of Fame autographs from a pack.
No, definitely. And pack pulled autographs, like two of the ones that I showed, are kind of the most accessible and obvious way. They're direct from the manufacturer. They sign contracts directly with the athletes, and they get these autographs out into your hands. And I know that can be very expensive when you see those one-of-one superfractor autographs that are selling for thousands of dollars. But Hall of Fame autographs can have really easy entry points, whether that be this Panini 75th anniversary set that they put out with guys like Gaylord Perry, all the way to some bigger Hall of Famers like Mike Schmidt that are in the set. So you can get some on-card autographs of Hall of Famers for very cheap. And they're certified. They're right through the company, right through the Hall of Fame and everything like that. And they are just super fun.
And there are over 300 different Hall of Famers that is possible for everyone to get an autograph out there. And, you know, for the diehard Hall of Fame collectors, we're going to mention them some here on YouTube throughout this show. For Frank at Baseball Hall of Fame Autographs, or Bill, the Hall of Fame collector, Mike Moynihan, baseball collector, or even Chris McCrary, who is Hall of Fame pullers. Those guys, you may look at them and think, I can never have, 200, 300 Hall of Fame autographs. 100 Hall of Fame autographs is very, very attainable, more attainable than you may think. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this show, because we're going to talk about the different ways you can acquire these autographs. And like Dom said, there are some, it's cheaper to get them like in a different brand, like the Panini pack pulled autograph. You can also go the other direction with like 5-star autographs. Like there's a 2013 Hank Aaron, right? That's a pack pulled autograph, but lower serial number, popular set, higher end set. And the 2012s are the same way, higher numbered for the Hank Aaron for 2012, but still a nicer product. Then you've got, different insert autographs. There's another Hank Aaron. That's a silver signatures 5-star, numbered to less than 100. So you can go that route as well. Jared's already saying that I'm showing off. I'm not showing off yet.
Yeah, just some Henry Aarons, so never a bad day to buy those. But yeah, I think whether it's the lower entry products or the higher ones, they are just absolutely insane. Definitely, Mark. But there are so many different options. There's both the on-card autographs as well as sticker autographs. And I know some people are saying, oh, sticker autographs are not as good as on-card. Those cards just aren't as cool. Stickers are typically put in a good spot. They're typically signed well, and they can look really freaking awesome when they're on something like this with Carl Yastrzemski, patch auto from 2005, Cooperstown Greats. It's a sticker. It looks like it's just in the place of where the autograph would go. There's a slight sticker on it, but it doesn't make it any less cool of a card. So you can go all the way from the simple unlicensed on-card autos all the way up to patch autos of your favorite Hall of Famers from your favorite teams. And I think that is really a beautiful thing. There's a wide spectrum of different stuff in the pack pulled era to collect.
Mm-hmm. When with the stickers too, like there are different types of stickers that you may or may not like for your collection that you can take a look at. I've got to give a shout out to our friend Lou Rock TV. He loves these silver sticker style autographs. That's a Willie McCovey from an early tribute year. He loves those. But a different sticker, a little bit newer tribute autograph. There's a Chipper Jones numbered to 24. And you can see it's that more clear sticker, not the silver one. And then something like this, like from the early prime cuts. This is number 2 of 5. You've got a quad relic, Greg Maddux, where it was almost like a silver sheet, not so much a sticker that they signed, that they, put in cards. Or you've got more modern ones with the completely clear sticker, like that Tim Raines from Trilogy. Or me and Dom were talking about this one. This sticker from EX, early EX, is actually so good, you probably can't tell that it's a sticker unless you have it in hand. It looks like an on-card autograph.
Yeah, and some of those are very good. And I know that you are a big fan of autographed baseballs, and we will talk about them a little later. But if you don't know if you want on-card or you don't know if you want a sticker, for many years, they put baseballs in cards. So there are a ton of sweet spot autographs. This one of Roy Halladay, the great late Roy Halladay doc. And you can get these things that take up a lot less space than an autographed baseball, but still have that sweet spot, clean autograph look to them. So it's just a lot of fun and just another option in the pack pulled card world. But let's say you want to venture outside of the pack pulled card world. There's certain things that you want outside of it. What is a good reference point for you guys to know what these autographs look like? Because as we know, these autograph certifications, if you don't get it in person, are just an educated opinion. And there is a fantastic book that you sent me the picture of that I still got to pull up. And it's Baseball Hall of Fame autographed. Yep. There, and it's the second edition by Ron Kerrigan. And that has a database of a bunch of different Hall of Fame signatures, the things to look for, the obvious fakes. And there's a ton of reference points like that. And as I've said on multiple programs, yeah, it's a little bright.
Show up.
There you go. As I've said on multiple programs, there is a college degree's worth of knowledge right here on YouTube. Jake was talking about guys like Bill, the Hall of Fame collector, Mike Moynihan, Frank Hall of Fame autographs. Like there's guys out there that are super experienced and will show you, especially Frank. He does autograph analysis of every single Hall of Famer. So you can go and sit there. They're super easily digestible, and he hits all the hard hitting topics about those signatures and what to look for. And then, like I said, you can trust the big companies, whether that be PSA DNA, JSA, Beckett Slab. There's some big companies like Fanatics, TriStar, and Steiner Sports that are all very reputable as well and linked to teams and leagues. But there is also the ability to know that autograph is real by getting an autograph in person. So Jake, what kind of in-person autographs do you like to collect?
Yeah, so for those of you that watch my channel, you probably know where I'm going to go here. But in person, you kind of can combine two things with in person. Yeah, there's TTM, which isn't in person. Obviously, you send it through the mail. But there's also private signings, which isn't the same as TTM. It's usually through like a representative, their agent or something like that. But you're still not present necessarily for the signing. But in person, there's a couple places I have done that already. I've done it in Cooperstown during Hall of Fame weekend. I met Ricky Henderson, Eddie Murray, Jim Palmer, a few different guys. Then I've also done it at the National. I met my favorite player, Chipper Jones, last year, 2 years ago? 2 years ago, and Tim Raines as well. And that's something that, yes, you're paying a higher price for it than you could just go get it on eBay. But if you're shooting a video and you're able to get that and have them pose for a picture and screenshot that, to me, that's worth a little bit extra money to have that experience along with it. But for me, the items that I'm going to do for like an in-person signing is I'm going to do my Perez Steel Customs. And I'm going to show a few of those here. We've got to start with Harold Baines, of course.
The man.
That one I actually did TTM. He was very gracious. He did the inscription there. Here's the Chipper Jones Perez Steel Custom I talked about. That's what I got signed in person at the National, which was really cool. Love that. Chipper was really nice. He gave a shout out to my son on camera. Randy Johnson, who I did through private signing. Then my Ted Simmons, who he did the Hall of Fame 2020 inscription. I'll just say I got that one through a friend. Dom doesn't like this one, but he's a Hall of Famer. Bud Selig, the commissioner.
Yeah, they technically are Hall of Fame autographs. The commissioners, they are people too.
It counts. It counts. So that one was TTM, and so was this Sandberg. And I'll get to some other items I got signed in person in a minute. But is there anything that you've gotten signed in person, Dom?
Yeah, so I have my signed baseball, but I'll wait till we're getting that thing that I've gotten signed in person. But I have met some Red Sox legends, Jim Rice, Carl Yastrzemski, and Tim Wakefield that I've got to meet in person at signings and do that whole thing. And I've wanted to, at the different opportunities, like you said, Cooperstown and the National, I've considered doing those signings. And they can be a lot, honestly. But like I said, that's the only way you know for 100% of a doubt that that autograph is authentic is if you see them sign in person, because it's just an opinion, an educated opinion with these certificates, and we're paying for that kind of experience and that database that they have access to authenticate the autograph if we didn't see them sign it. But those Hall of Fame postcards that you showed are great, and they're super collectible. I love them. But I'm also a fan of the other Dick Perez issues. So I have Greatest Moments of Duke Snyder. I love this set. It's based off the Turkey Red cabinet cards, and they're really awesome. And also, there are these Hall of Fame plaque postcards that the Hall of Fame still sells to this day that are super collectible when they're signed as well. So this is Stan the Man Musial. And these are really awesome because you get to see their actual Hall of Fame plaque, and many players, thankfully, lived to see their induction, were able to sign these. So these are also a super common thing that you get signed at shows or be signed and slabbed online to purchase as well.
And there was a couple questions in there, Dom, I want to touch on. I think it was Mike posted a question of, am I worried that, there it is. Am I worried that players will now not sign non-official approved items like my custom Perez steel? Well, that was actually the case for Chipper when I went to the National 2 years ago, and he signed it. His agent handler didn't catch it or didn't care, whatever. He signed it. That might be different with Fanatics taking over. My personal hunch on it is that if you get something signed at the National with Fanatics in their back pocket and everything like that, I don't think you're going to be able to, slip one in there. I think they're going to catch it. But just my gut feeling, if you go to Cooperstown on Hall of Fame weekend where all the players are kind of happy to be there, I don't think they're going to care, and I think they're going to sign it. I just think it's going to be a looser, less strict environment. But that's just a hunch. That's just my opinion. The other question that popped up, our good friend Will asked, he said, didn't PSA say they won't slab those anymore? I was actually worried about the same thing, but Garrett, Card Cutter here on YouTube, is an expert. He has a rep at PSA DNA. He talked to them, and basically anything that is a reprint or trying to reproduce something else is things that they will not authenticate and slab anymore. So it's not a replication of something of a card because they don't exist. That's why we have the customs of those, myself and Mike and a couple others. But they will still slab them, is my understanding.
Yeah, and that's really awesome for you to continue that project. I know how much you love to have slabs in your collection, so that's a big part of it. But I think that another extension that we've seen of things getting signed at shows and has gone way up is signing playing days cards and rookie cards, and that can be like the Wade Boggs 1983 Topps rookie card that my good friend gave to me in a care package, or it could be a slabbed rookie card like my Albert Pujols, who isn't in the Hall of Fame yet, but his signed rookie card here, 2001 Top Stars. And it can also be vintage, and vintage signed cards have been popping up like crazy recently. I have a 1954 Red Heart Mini Minoso that's autographed that I absolutely love. And this card probably wouldn't be one that I would pick out of a lineup if it didn't have the signature on it, but the signature just brings up the eye appeal of the card so much. I keep getting drawn to that signature, and it's just really awesome to have it.
I only have one playing days signed card like that, and I've got a quick story with mine. I'm a collector of Hall of Famers, yes, but I do the Braves Hall of Fame, the Braves World Series teams. And in 57, the Braves won it, and Red Schoendienst was on that Braves team. And like every pack pulled autograph, he's in Cardinals uniform. And I didn't want a Cardinals uni because I was doing it for a Braves project, right? And I'm like, what am I going to do about this? Well, he had playing days cards in Braves uni, and that's how I picked up this 1960 Red Schoendienst playing days autograph card in ballpoint pen. So you can also use that to your advantage to fit a certain segment in your collection or a certain niche that may be better for you than the pack pulled autographs themselves.
Yeah, and that's the thing about these autographs that aren't from pack pulled is you can kind of collect the way you want to. And I think that's something that we would stress to people that are getting something signed in person. is to get something that's unique to you, get something that's harder for you to find on the open market when you're going to see these players in person, because you are going to pay a premium, whether they're going through Fanatics or not, just to meet them and to know that it's authentic and to have that experience in that meetup. So get something that's unique to you, whether it be a guy who's a legendary Cardinal that in a Braves uni or something else like that fits your collection. I think it's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is about the time in the show here where we live up to our name of Cracking Cooperstown. And Jake decides to free something from its plastic prison. Yes, he will be cracking a slab here live on the air. I believe this is a Hobby Palooza first. I've watched the last handful of years, and I don't remember anyone cracking a slab live on camera. So this will be really awesome here. Jake, what are you cracking today?
I am cracking a Beckett slab autograph of Buck O'Neil, and I'm going to crack it to create a Perez Steel custom Buck O'Neil autograph, because number one, this is a custom. He wasn't alive to sign this. Mm-hmm. And I do cut autograph Perez Steels as well as on cards. So Dom is going to talk a little bit about Buck O'Neil, and I am going to crack this Buck O'Neil autograph.
Well, if you haven't watched Ken Burns baseball, you should do that after Hobby Palooza is over tonight. You should binge that, because that is an absolute pleasure. But Buck O'Neil was on that as well as many other things. And he was a baseball lifer. This is a guy who got his career started playing in the Negro Leagues and ended up being a coach and a scout. He scouted Ernie Banks during his career and was a mentor and very good baseball player throughout his entire baseball life. And Buck O'Neil was so selfless and so much of a historian for the game that despite not being elected himself in 2008, he gave the induction speeches for numerous Negro League electees that had passed, that were getting inducted into Cooperstown, and he did a fantastic job. Those videos are on YouTube, and I strongly suggest that if you want to learn more about these undertold baseball stories, that you go out there and you listen to Buck O'Neil's stories. I had the pleasure of actually being at Buck O'Neil's induction in 2022 when I went to go see Big Papi David Ortiz get elected, and Buck O'Neil's niece did the whole speech, and it looks like we are free from our plastic tomb here. Are you going to cut it in a separate video, or are you going to cut it here too?
I'm going to cut it on a separate video,
okay.
But there it is, and it's a little baggy. I'll have to cut it out, but there you go.
It is free.
Free of that plastic prison, baby.
That is absolutely awesome. And I think that is a really awesome thing, because we're talking about the flats, and they can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And something that's also really common, and because there's a lot out there, can be very inexpensive, is getting signed photographs of players. And that can be vintage photographs. I have the late, great Willie Mays on a 1964 J Publishing. That's my biggest pickup so far here in 2024. And it was a very big tragedy that he passed away, as well as this 1948 Cleveland team pack, Bob Feller autograph. And the vintage autographs on the pictures can turn into modern photographs, whether that be this amazing gift from Orlando over to Collector's Dream, this Carl Yastrzemski Cons Hillshire Farms photo, or stuff with inscriptions like Carlton Fisk, stay fair, that iconic moment from the 75 World Series. Your boy Hank Aaron, being able to get him on a photograph was a lot cheaper than looking for a 5-star card or one of those higher end products.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the Mick. We're going to show Mickey Mantle here. I know I'm a Red Sox fan, but amazing signature, super iconic. And these autographs can be more affordable with the JSA, PSA, TriStar, Steiner LOAs than getting these on-card autographs from eBay or wherever else. So it's also another option, and it looks great in your man cave or card room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Dom said, if you've got the room, 8x10s are a much more affordable way to get Hall of Fame autographs, especially at shows. you can pick up a lot of stuff like this for 10, 15, 20, 30 bucks of all-time greats if you've got the room to display them. This is the only 8x10 I've got. It was from our very own Ground Chuck. He sent me this, Brooks Robinson. But 8x10s are a cool way, an affordable way to add a lot of Hall of Fame autographs to your collection as well.
Yeah, and they're super, their supply is very much out there because there was a big craze at one point to have the autograph photos for your man cave, especially. That's kind of what the whole driving force was. So there were companies that were signing players to sign stacks of hundreds of photos. So there are some photos of certain players that you will see a ton of them out there as well. And that can be a lot of fun. And those photos are super accessible. And you can get, if you want that scarce, that type collector thing, you can also go after vintage photographs like I showed with the Mays and the Feller, and you can find something that's a little more unique and harder to get, especially when, like with Jake's Buck O'Neil autograph, the player passes away. So there's a shorter window to get certain things signed.
When it's a 8x10s and pictures are a great way to get autographs of guys with an image of the player, right? Like that's kind of the whole point of cards. A lot of people don't like autographed baseballs or don't like index cards because there's no image of the player. And typically pack pulled autographs, which have an image of the player, are generally more expensive, especially of the harder to find names. But usually their counterparts on a picture in 8x10 are much more affordable, and you still get the image of the player.
Oh, agreed. It's visually pleasing. They have way more space to work with the autograph than on a little card, so the players are able to have a more flowing full signature. There's plenty of pluses to going the 8x10 route, and they're a very affordable thing for a lot of those players to get into as well. But you do love baseballs. You can't see right now because the big unit is closed, but you have an entire giant display of baseballs. For people that don't care about the image, why is a baseball such a classic autographed item for your collection?
There's something about getting a baseball signed. You know, a lot of times that was something very special to a kid back in the day. They may have only had one ball, right? It's not like myself or you, Dom, growing up, you know, you have a bucket of baseballs at home, growing up being a baseball player. You may have only had one, and you may have only had one to get signed. You may have not had anything else at the ballpark back in the day. So it's something that's always kind of stuck around. But the autographed baseball, for me, why I like it is I think they look so good. It's so uniform. And there's, no wrong uniform either. Meaning if you're an athletics fan, which you had to have been a long time ago, God bless their fans right now. But if you used to be, and Ricky Henderson played for, 15 different teams or whatever it was, there wasn't a card that you got where he was in Yankees uniform or he was in Mets uniform or whatever it was. That baseball still says A's to you, even though there's no uniform at all. And Ricky was one of the guys I met in Cooperstown. I challenged him to a race and had him sign this baseball. And there's a lot of different things you can do with baseballs as well. Like this is just a signature, right? And I'll show one more because it's, I just had to show it off. It's a tough one now since he is unfortunately no longer with us. It's faint on video, but better here. It's Roy Halladay, his autograph. But there are other things you can do with baseballs that's fun. Like only one of these is Hall of Famer, but it's one of my favorite baseballs. Let me get it out of the glare if I can. It's signed by Warren Spahn and Johnny Sain, and the saying for the Braves in the 50s was Spahn and Sain and pray for rain, which Johnny Sain inscribed there. So I love that. Then there's also things like I mentioned Red Schoendienst earlier in the show and how he's part of my Braves project. Well, there's a Red Schoendienst ball inscribed 57 Braves for that team that won the World Series. You could also, if you wanted, have them sign their nicknames, like North Carolinian Tar Heel here, Enos Country Slaughter, who signed his nickname. My brother actually got me that. I believe he's still watching here, so shout out to my brother. Then there's things like, oh, wait, who got me that? It was Dom. He got me that Marichal ball. You could even get things like this team signed ball. It's a 1970 Mets, year after. Some of these signatures are light, but this is year after the Miracle Mets. It's got Hodges on the on the sweet spot. It's got Nolan Ryan and Tom Seaver on it as well. This ball I got from the Drew. So you can get team signed balls as well. There's a lot of different things that you can do with autographed baseballs that can better fit your collection and kind of customize them to a degree.
Yeah, and I don't have nearly as many baseballs as you in my collection, but I do have a few, and it's because it is a truly classic thing. I was kind of lobbing up to you to make a Sandlot reference when it's like, why is collecting autographed baseballs so big to you? I know that that's your favorite movie, and that definitely has some influence on you with an autographed baseball being such a big part of the story. But outside of that, I just think that there is a classic thing about it. And it's not just for baseball players, but because baseball is America's pastime and it's Americana, there are so many autographed baseballs of presidents, of actors and actresses, of musicians, of just big figures in America, other sports as well. So like a signed baseball is just about as classic as it gets. So when I had the opportunity to meet Jim Rice a few years ago, I immediately was like, I got to get a baseball. I've never gotten a baseball signed in person. I've gotten turned down at some games. This is something that I want to do, get a nice bold signature on there. And I saw a comment talking about the fading with the signatures on baseballs, because that can be an issue depending on what pen they are using. Do you have a pen that is your go-to when you get autographs in person on baseballs?
Yep. Blue ballpoint pen is what you want to do. I prefer my stuff autographed on the sweet spot. There are plenty of different logo balls out there where you can do side panel. I know our friend Jared loves the special logos, like the World Series logos for the 95 Braves or for a commemorative ball. That's something that's popular. But I think the biggest thing, in addition to the pen, you want a Major League ball. It's a better quality ball. It also holds value better for you. But keeping them out of sunlight, that's why the big unit usually stays closed. The doors are closed on it right now. And you keep them out of extreme heat and extreme cold to try and keep them from, running, fading, toning, all of the things that can happen to baseballs.
Yeah, for autographs in general, that's the case. Like if you have a space that can get too hot or too cold, a dehumidifier can really save your collection in a lot of ways too, if you have a lot of autographed items as well. So that's something to keep in mind with the autographs, is because like heat and moisture are not friends of our hobby when we're talking about ink and cardboard. Like those kind of things don't go together. So we got to be as smart as we can about it. But we go from the classic, the baseball, the thing that everybody gets signed, the thing that there's so many out there. But you have the opportunity to find unique things. And sometimes they're unique because somebody decided to get something signed that's not super common. And other times you get an autograph on a certificate or a check or a legal document to kind of know that, hey, like that's an official document. They weren't going to send their wife to sign that or their secretary. Like that's an official signature. It's got some good stuff. So what kind of documents and different things can you add to your autograph collection?
So one, you guys have been looking at this whole show sitting behind me. Mm-hmm. I've got a Brooks Robinson signed pennant, which is definitely like the most random thing I have signed in my collection. I mostly have cards, baseballs, stuff like that. But that's something different that I have. One thing I guess I want to backpedal a little bit on, because it falls into the unique category, is I was never big on TTMs. That really wasn't my thing. But I came up with something after my son was born that I thought was a unique idea and something different you can do to get Hall of Fame autographs. And I call them Luca letters. My son's name is Luca. And basically, I wrote a little letter to each of these Hall of Fame players, and then, gave a reason why I would be teaching him about their story and asked him to sign it. Well, this one's from Nolan Ryan. He doesn't sign inscriptions for free. There's also very limited things that he will sign. So for him to sign, to Luca, have fun playing ball, was really special, and sign his name because he just doesn't do that. So he clearly read the letter. That was awesome. There's another. I've got a few I'm going to show here real quick. There's one that I did TTM to Ryan Sandberg. He wrote him a note there, wrote him a letter. And then I'm going to have my second son's going to be born in November. And this is one that Luca will have that My second son will not, because unfortunately Gaylord Perry is no longer with us. But he wrote best wishes there, and two more. You can get Harold Baines TTM on a letter. I know everybody wants that. And finally, my grandfather's favorite player was Brooks Robinson, and he delivered. He wrote Luca the longest letter that I have to date, the most meaningful one that I've done for him. And I show those as an example because you can come up with unique things on your own to do TTM.
Yeah, and I think those are really powerful and they're super unique. And I think part of the reason why these players were willing to sign those extra inscriptions and write those notes is because of the thought that went into it. You see at these signings all the time, they'll get a whole box of baseballs. They'll get a whole stack of helmets or hats, and they'll just go through and they'll sign them real quick. But when they get something a little bit more meaningful, something they don't see every day, there's a lot of times a kind of light bulb goes off in the player's head, and they kind of gravitate towards like, yeah, this is a really cool thing. Thank you for showing it to me. Thank you for having me do this. Like there's ways to kind of stick out both with your collection and to the player as well. And that can be things like this. I have a Orlando Cepeda signed piece of the Green Monster gate. So like this is the garage door from the Green Monster that Orlando Cepeda signed. So you can find unique things like that. Sammy Thunder is a big fan of this piece. So I have a 1966 scorecard that I found at a table on the National just sitting out like this. And I just opened it up to look inside it, see who they were playing and stuff. And they were playing the Giants. And on the inside, it said Juan Marichal, the Dominican dandy. So Hall of Famer with an inscription, looked good to me. I bought it, walked it right over to JSA. It passed. And someone thought, hey, like Juan Marichal was on the Giants, and getting an item like this is super unique. And you don't see this versus something like a baseball or an 8x10 or a Giants hat that Juan Marichal signed 2,700 times. He probably only signed one or two of these. So that kind of stuff can be really fun and iconic. But there's also, like I was alluding to earlier, there are more official documentation, which is more common for some of the older players, especially just because there aren't as many known signings that were going on back then. So what kind of official like documents can you get of some of these Hall of Fame players as well that are a little harder to find, or you can't send them TTM?
Sure. So a favorite of our friends, Frank and Bill, is government postcards. So cards that were essentially TTMs back in the day, that were officially stamp marked and all that kind of stuff, that somebody was one of those OG TTMers. But the cool thing about them is they're dated. So like, for example, here's one where, you can see this lady's name that sent, a government postcard to this Hall of Fame player. It's stamp marked 1973. And that one's signed by Jesse Haynes. So you also can see, when the year was that he signed it. This one, it's got the JSA sticker on there where it's been authenticated, but this one was, postmarked 1949, and it's in pencil, so it may not show good on camera, but it's a Chick Hafey, little bit tougher Hall of Famer. And then I've got one more government postcard from this one right here, Lefty Grove. Nice big signature on that government postcard. So that's one way. One other one before, Dom, you show yours off. Quick sidebar. I've got 2 videos about this on my channel. Go check it out because I'm just going to touch on it briefly here. But Perez Steel postcards, when back in the day, pre-internet, if you wanted to get the same serial numbered set the next year or for the next series, you had to fill out the registration card and send it to Perez Steel Galleries. And that would guarantee you to get the same serial numbered set. So for instance, if you had set number 200 and you fill out the registration card, send it back to Perez Steel Galleries, you would then get 200 for your serial numbered set for the next series. Well, that rule applied even to the Hall of Famers. So the Hall of Famers of the day, they all got their first set complimentary. And then if they wanted to continue that on, they had to fill out those registration cards and send them to Perez Steel Galleries, which means there's essentially a 1-of-1 for all of the Hall of Famers that participated for each series. Well, I own some of those. This is a Brooks Robinson that he signed and filled out with his address. And I have done extensive research on this. You can look it up on my channel, Legends Never Die, if you want to know more about him. But here's one he filled out. And here's another one. It's really cool for not only for these to be 1-of-1s and a unique piece for Perez Steel collectors, but it's cool to see these guys fill out something all in their hand. Like that's a Jocko Conlon Hall of Fame umpire there. So that's another like unique thing that's out there that's not a typical thing you would have signed or get signed.
Yeah, and those are really awesome. I appreciate you for helping me add a couple of those to my collection, just so I can have that in my type collection that keeps budding and budding more. I want things like that are super special and very one of a kind, hard to find. And I feel like those documents, they can extend very like fully is with checks. I know you have a pretty big check. This is only a Jesse Haynes, but 1974 check. It's stamp paid, and he filled it out and signed his name to get the check. So you can get Hall of Famers on a check, and they have to sign it to cash it, to use it. So that also used to be a big TTM trick, was getting the cash check afterwards with the signature on the back, endorsing it. The Topps Vaults also did a big kind of release to the public of all different kinds of stuff. And a lot of people went crazy about the proofs and the photographs that they used for the cards and stuff like that. But they also released the dang contracts. So I got a 1987 Topps Dwight Evans contract signed by Cy Berger and Dwight Evans. Dwight Evans is a guy who I believe will be in the Hall of Fame someday. He's already in the Red Sox Hall of Fame. And stuff like this is just super awesome. It's a 1-of-1 in many ways, just like your Perez Steel registration cards as well. And the fact that you can own stuff like this that was behind closed doors at Topps with these players and attach these kind of cards and these moments to that, it's just really special. So doing stuff like that's awesome. And I don't know if this would be considered a government postcard, but it was a postcard. It was mailed at one point. But Johnny Mize died in 1991 or something, I believe, 93, early 90s. I was born in the late 90s. So I never got to meet Johnny Mize. He's a player that my grandfather watched play, and I've always had collected and had fond memories of. Well, I'm on eBay, and there's a Johnny Mize autographed to Dominic with best wishes, Johnny Mize. So you can find stuff that's personalized to you. A lot of times it tanks the value, but to me, someone that was never going to get to meet Johnny Mize, getting to find something like this on someone that clearly had a restaurant that the ball players would go to and got autographs is just super special and really exciting to find this kind of stuff as well, because it's so much less common. It's not a common medium to see signed.
Yeah, I do have one check to show off. I know you mentioned that as an official document, and this check itself is almost 100 years old, but it is my Ty Cobb autographed check.
Man.
And it's from 1931. He made it out for $58.50, which was not chump change in 1931 to a Francis Riding Club. So another cool thing about these vintage checks is, you can look up, where these banks were and what, organizations they may have been writing checks to and that kind of thing. See where they, cashed them and that kind of stuff. Something to note about, an old check like this, something that does make them more valuable. You can actually see through it there a little bit, where they've marked that it has been paid. You would want those to not be over the autograph. Obviously, you don't want holes in your autograph. So that's something to pay attention to on, vintage checks like this.
Yeah, and if you could afford to be picky with a Cobb check, like be picky, don't get those holes in the autograph. But now you just kind of open my eyes to an avenue to get some of those old players' checks. It's like, I got to find the one that has the punch out, like I can still read the autograph, but there's a few punch outs in there. Like, that's fine. I'll get it.
I'm here to encourage, Tom. I'm here to encourage.
Yeah. And punching out's one thing, and another thing is people would take those documents, those government postcards, those checks, notebook pages, and different things, and they would create cut autographs, which is a thing that you see big time. It's like those legendary pulls from modern packs. Also, you see them put on things like Perez Steels. You see them just marketed as cuts that were on a bigger medium and cut down to more a card storage size for our hobby. And those, a lot of times for the older players, are like the creme de la creme. It's all that's available is these cut autographs from these older guys. And this is something that I haven't shown on my YouTube channel, and I'm very excited to share with you guys here. It's Hobby Palooza. I figure what a better reason to bring it out. But you can get autographs of legendary Hall of Famers on cuts. And this one right here is Walter Johnson, the big train. Bring it closer. Got a nice little pencil autograph there. And this is a full letter JSA. It was on a notebook page with one of his teammates that was not quite as good. The teammate, you can kind of see the little strokes of him right above. But Walter Johnson, guys like this, he died in the 40s. They weren't signing baseballs. Fanatics wasn't having him set up to sign a bunch of hats or bats. So being able to get a Walter Johnson autograph is something that's super stunning, and the opportunities can jump for that. This is something that is one of the crown jewels of my collection. It's something that I don't break out very often. But for Hobby Palooza and talking cuts, you got to bring the fire. And I know you're about to one-up me right now with as well. So thanks for letting me go first.
Dude, Dom, got to let you go first. I'm jealous of that piece, man. I don't have a big train autograph yet. I love that one, man.
Greatest picture that ever lived, man.
I'm glad I was here for the unveil. That was fun. But Dom mentioned, Perez Steels, and that they're very popular for people to do cuts with for the guys that were deceased. So I do both. I do all the ones that are possible to be on card, but I also do cuts as well. So I'm going to start off with like a unique one that I have, which this is Zach Wheat. And why it's a unique one, I actually got this idea from my friend Chris McCrary, Hall of Fame Pullers, because it was from an index card. And Zach Wheat had not only signed it, but he had wrote with best wishes on that index card. And I cut that part off and put it on the back because these are postcards. I thought that was a really cool idea. So my best wishes from Zach Wheat. We've got that one. I bought this autograph from my friend the Drew, and I'm glad I got it before he got in the Hall of Fame. But there's my Gil Hodges cut autograph, a much tougher autograph than you'd probably think, because even though he was popular and he managed after his playing days, he died fairly young, didn't sign a ton. So that's a little bit tougher one. All right, which one do I show first? Let's go with this one. This is not a big name Hall of Famer, but for those of you in the know for Hall of Fame autographs, Tony Lazzeri is not an easy autograph to get. I got this one from Bill, the Hall of Fame collector, the cut, and I attached it to this Perez Steel myself and had it authenticated when SGC was still doing that. Two more cuts. Man, this one, Kid Nichols. Charles Nichols, one of the 300 game winners. I didn't think I'd ever have an autograph of. I got that one from Frank, Baseball Hall of Fame autographs. He upgraded his, so he said this would be perfect for you, Jake. I give you my blessing to make it into a cut because he does not like them. But that's a Kid Nichols. And then finally, probably the best collecting decision I ever made was right before I got married. I told myself I wanted to get one of these because I'd have responsibilities, wife, family, kids someday, and I may not get another chance. And I'm so glad that I bought my Babe Ruth cut autograph. It was already done. I did not do this cut myself. It was already on the Perez Steel, already slabbed and authenticated. But that's what Dom's talking about when he says I was going to one-up him and show my Babe Ruth.
The Sultan of SWAT, the Colossus of Clout. the Colossus of Clout. Yes, Babe Ruth. Little mic drop, little Sandlot reference from my guy. You can just span the entire avenue of Hall of Fame autographs, whether you get in at the pack pulled level all the way to the guys that have been dead before the show circuit, with the autographs being more prevalent and being more of a collector's item. Even Gil Hodges, he died in, I think, 72. So that was before card shows really started getting going and signing was a lot more prevalent. Not that players obviously weren't getting asked for signatures beforehand, but it is just so awesome. There's so many different ways to collect Hall of Fame autographs. I'm sure there's some different mediums and things that we didn't cover, but we tried to cast as wide of a net as possible. But Jake, what is your advice for someone that is getting into Hall of Fame autographs, taking their first steps, when you kind of overview all their options here?
Well, I think there's two ways. If you really want to collect Hall of Fame autographs, I think there's two ways to go about it. If you're someone that just wants to kind of like get your number up there for Hall of Fame autographs, so to speak, that's easier to do than you may think. We mentioned it at the top of the show. It's fairly accessible for almost all collectors to clear 100 autographs, at least over time, of different Hall of Famers. However, what my recommendation is, what my style has been, is I have tried to buy the tougher, more expensive autographs as often as I can for my collection, because the guys that are scarce, the guys that are already valuable, especially for these pre-war type Hall of Famers, the supply is not going up. There's a limited quantity, and they're the ones that are most likely to go up first. I mean, I'll share the number just for the sake of an example. You know, I got married 6 years ago, and I bought that Babe Ruth about 6 months before I got married. So we're talking 2017. Yes, it's pre-boom and all of that. But I spent $3,100 all in to get that Babe Ruth autograph. And today, that's a 5-figure autograph. I could not buy that right now. There's no way. And that's why after that, I moved to my next big target autograph that I wanted was a Ty Cobb. You know, I take a long time to save up and get that one, and tried to keep some money in my back pocket when I had opportunities to jump on a Kid Nichols or a Gil Hodges or a Tony Lazzari that I could, because the Paul Molliters, even the King Griffies, while it's more expensive, there's a heck of a lot more of them out there, where how many times do you even have a chance to buy a Kid Nichols, period? Much less, be able to afford one. So if you want to be in it for the long haul, you want to shoot for as many Hall of Famers as possible, I would say shoot as high as you can now, as often as you can.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a different hobby budget and a different journey. I think that's very sound advice for like the completion aspect, though it's very impossible to complete. There are some players that have 0 known autographs in the Hall of Fame, or very few that are at museums and such. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of Hall of Famers that are out there, and my goal is currently to eventually get to 100 different Hall of Fame autographs. I know it seemed like a lot going through this tonight, people, but I'm only at 67 different Hall of Famers right now. I have multiple autographs of a few of them. But my advice would just be to start with whether it's your favorite team or the players that you most connect to, get some of those first, so you can have that joy of getting a nice, bold example of that player's signature in your collection. And then you can build and you can branch out and just continue to research, use these resources, whether it be that amazing book Jake showed at the beginning or all the great resources here on YouTube. You can hit us up on Instagram, and we'll try to help you as much as we can as well, because we're all learning always and on our journey. But this has been a ton of fun. And I just hope that everyone out there that either is collecting Hall of Fame autographs or is going to start too soon, just sees all the different avenues that they can go through, because it really is an awesome thing. It's literally an extension of the player that you get to keep in your collection, and it's a piece of baseball history.
Support Signatures for Soldiers. Donate if you haven't. Support the rest of Hobby Palooza here on For Collectors. Watch those. Go sub to my boy Dom over at Staven Sports Cards. He's under the same name on Instagram. If you enjoyed this episode of Cracking Cooperstown, where we talk collecting Hall of Famers, but we also talk about resumes and what makes a Hall of Famer, those type of things, we do this semi-regularly over on my channel, Legends Never Die, where neither will you if you know Jesus. We hope to see you guys there in the future. God bless. Keep collecting.
Have a good night, everybody.